Ho, ho, ho! Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports, coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond, in London, England, as well as Paris, France, of course. You good old boys in Canada, we love you in Africa, the Big C tribe. But there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south. It's the land of the free and the home of the brave on a beautiful December the 15th, 2020. Rondo Deportes, bonjour, Big C. How's it going for you good old boys down south?
Well, Charlton, it's moving along, hopefully for the world and America, because all 50 states now have received some sort of COVID-19 vaccination kits in each state. So every American eventually will get vaccinated for COVID-19, and that will be great for sports and everything else, because they have some 20 college basketball games that are canceled tonight because of COVID-19. Once again, I want to send a thank you out to all our first-line healthcare workers, and also thank you for being in line for the first to get those COVID-19 vaccination shots. Our nurses, our doctors, our first responders.
Amen to that. They need it. Big C, you can get your shot first. I want to say today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you. Anywhere around the world, just say Google or Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast, and you'll hear from our sponsors. You will hear welcome to the show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic, and he'll do his thing from 3,000 miles away. And I really appreciate the way things are growing with Big C Sports. You can follow Big C Sports on Spotify. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, Apple TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. But you better have a smart TV, or you'll be sitting there looking at a still picture. Man, I love pausing, but I'll never pause on our Veterans Crisis Hotline, Big C. Even though we're being hacked by Russia and POTUS says nothing, I will never stop celebrating our veterans. When you think about it, we have our freedom because of our veterans. Big C, why is that so important to you?
Well, Charlton, it's very important. All Americans need to pay homage to that, because the way we're allowed to live in America is because those great veterans of America who have made so many sacrifices for us to have the freedom as a nation that we have.
Yep.
But we lose over a couple dozen veterans a day to suicide, Charlton, a horrific number. And not only that, think about the number of veterans that we have lost to COVID-19 as well. And hopefully the administration will have solace and think about putting those veterans in front of the line when it comes to COVID-19 vaccination, because they did so much for this country over the decades, Charlton. But, we give out the National Suicide Prevention Hotline number, but it's even more deeper than that when it comes to veterans as far as the needs that they need and deserve from this country.
Yep.
Many of these veterans are destitute, they're homeless, mentally and physically, hurt, Charlton, and damaged. And we don't have the resources in this country, or we lack giving the resources in this country to those veterans. And that's something that's totally wrong. As we have Donald Trump, who has given up on the presidency of the United States, I would wish that our Senate would think even more about our great veterans.
Very well said, Big C. That's why we love giving out the number 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net. You can definitely help our veterans get some help. Very happy to be affiliated with Valley Homes Weekly TV on Dish TV, DirecTV, AT&T Uverse, TV53, home of the San Francisco Giants, and the Say Hey Kid, as well as the Home Run King, Barry Bonds. When you reach out to him, tell him Big C sent you. Our goal is simple: recruit 10,000 real estate agents and brokers all over this great country. Help putting people back to work just like McDonald's does it. Car dealerships do it. Sports teams are doing it too. When they're not on pause, you can do it too. Watch TV and real estate work for you. 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. If you're looking for opportunities in real estate, go to bigcsports.pacwm.com. That's bigcsports.pacwm.com. and you can definitely get some help. Also, I want to say all over the universe, open your cell phone, just like Santa Claus says, ho, ho, ho. Open up your cell phone, say play Big C Sports Podcast. You will see all of our apps pop up, and that way you can hear Big C's thoughts 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I also want to say thank you to Comcast Spotlight for presenting Big C Sports to the universe. Just like God said, let there be light. Open your cell phone and just say, play Big C Sports Podcast. You'll see all of our apps pop up, and I really do appreciate the way things are growing with Big C Sports. Big C, today, I know people are focused on sports and football and the COVID vaccine, but would you believe one of your golfing friends, Mitch McConnell, he actually, today for the first time, he actually congratulated 46th Presidential-elect Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, once the Electoral College put in the vote, Charlton, giving Joe Biden his 306 Electoral College vote, no one can deny it. You can sit there and front stuff for Trump, but everyone knows that Joe Biden will be the next 46th president of the United States.
Yeah, he will be. I still think he's trying to pull some shenanigans down there in Georgia, old Mitch McConnell. You can't trust the man. I don't care if he apologizes or not. He has no need being in charge of if American people starve or have a roof over their head. What a joke of a person. I do want to get into someone who's not a joke of a person. Last night, I thought I saw Superman. It's a bird. It's a plane. No, I'm Super Rhymes. There was a rap song back in the day called Super Rhymes. I used to sing it all the time. It takes about 10 minutes. I thought I saw Superman last night, Big C. His name's Lamar Jackson, and he plays hero. He lifts the Baltimore Ravens over the Cleveland Browns in the NFL's best game this season so far. If you don't like that, then you don't like NFL football, if that makes sense to you. It will take an epic game to beat what Baltimore and Cleveland did last night. It was as thrilling as NFL can get. Monday Night Football had everything. Lamar Jackson, known as Superman, if that makes sense to you, who was in the locker room. He had some leg cramps for most of the evening. And what I heard is he was eating the Big C burger. It is a tasty burger, and it comes with exotic meats. And after he ate the Big C burger, he comes out of the locker room like Willis Reed. And think about this, Big C. Most of the fourth quarter, he was gone with 2 minutes remaining. Okay, 2 minutes, and they were down. He threw a fourth down touchdown pass to give the Ravens a lead, and then Baker Mayfield did his thing. He came back on a quick drive and tied the game. Superman Jackson then answered again, passing to the Ravens territory for Justin Tucker, who may just be the best kicker in the universe, in my opinion. Made a 55-yard field goal that could have been good from the 65 yards. With 2 seconds left, Big C, it gave the Ravens a 45-42 lead, and a safety on a lateral play at the end of the game made Las Vegas happy because Cleveland didn't cover the spread. They lost 47-42. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you might not want to advertise on what Lamar Jackson was eating. I know they said he was in the locker room having leg cramp.
Yeah.
But no one runs to the locker room that quick with leg cramp. I think he was running for that follow Pepto-Bismol from something that he ate. So don't advertise the Big C burger that Lamar Jackson was eating, because what he was doing wasn't leg cramp. It had to do more with the stomach. But it was an outstanding game when you look at Monday Night Football. We talked about the history leading up to that game on the 25th and 50th anniversary of events that led to these teams meeting last night.
Yeah.
I mean, it was an epic game. It was what old-time NFL football used to be.
Yeah.
Where you had dominant running games back and forth between two teams. Both of these teams had explosive plays throughout the game, passing and running, Charlton. It was electrifying. I mean, what a way to cap off a weekend of football, week 15 in the NFL.
Yeah.
It was great for the fans that were in the stadium. It was even greater for the fans that were at home watching this game.
Yeah.
You could see the physicality as well as the explosiveness in this game. But Lamar Jackson showed himself on primetime stage. I mean, he pulled the Willis Reed incident from back in 1969 when the New York Knicks won their first NBA championship, hobbling out of the locker room, propelling his team to victory.
Yep.
Baker Mayfield had an outstanding game also. When he was mobile and outside the pocket, he was able to hit open receivers. And that's his strong point. The running game, when you look at what the Browns were able to do on the ground with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, but also with Edwards and Jackson for the Ravens.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just a spectacular evening of football.
Yeah, it was. Superman definitely showed up in the house last night, Big C. And the Big C burger is what made him able to play. They might say it was injections, but it was a Big C burger. But I want to ask you something, because I know you spent a lot of time down in Vegas a lot more than a lot of people would assume, if that makes sense to you. But Baltimore, they were favored by 3. Okay, they were ahead with 2 seconds to play. And then people who bet on the Cleveland Browns to cover, hey, they figured out they were going to get some money. But with 2 seconds left, Las Vegas made a phone call to Cleveland somehow, and they took a 20-yard safety. They posted like 5 different guys, and they kept running backwards to the end zone. Does that make sense to you?
Well, Charlton, as players, you're trying to exhaust all options.
Running backwards?
And that's what the Browns were doing last night.
Yeah.
I don't think that the safety was intentional, because I don't think players go into a game looking, we need to, cover this by one more point on the stage. They were in desperation mode, trying to make something happen. I think they had watched Patrick Mahomes the day before take the longest sack in NFL history, I believe 32 yards against the Miami Dolphins. And they thought by going back. Matter of fact, there was a college game that was played over the weekend where a team lateraled in the game some 8 times, Charlton, and eventually ended up scoring a touchdown because the opposing team came onto the field. And it looked sort of like the Cal-Stanford game from back in the 80s when the band was on the field, and the team went down and scored a touchdown, and I think Cleveland was trying to emulate that last night.
Yeah, the band is out of the field, the great Joe Starkey and Cal Berkeley over there in the East Bay. It's all fair in Love and War. Speaking of being fair and setting records, NFL football, Patrick Touchdown Mahomes is still the clear favorite, in my opinion, in the MVP race. But Rodgers, also from California, Big C, Cal Berkeley, gained a lot of ground in terms of the odds at that MGM bet, Big C. Touchdown Patrick Mahomes with 3 interceptions on one day against the Miami Dolphins is a big reason for the shift in the odds. The Chiefs won, and Mahomes still had 393 yards, 2 touchdowns, but his touchdown interception ratio was a big part of his MVP resume. He was 31-2 after Sunday. That's incredible. Now he's 33-5, which is still pretty incredible. It's still great, but not as mind-blowing as it was last week. Big C, your thoughts?
But when you think about those interceptions, Patrick Mahomes makes so many spectacular plays in a game, and each one of those was the first 2 interceptions that he threw were tipped by his own receivers.
Yeah.
And that old adage in the NFL, if you get your hands on the ball, you have to catch the damn ball.
Yep.
And that didn't happen other than the Dolphins picking it off.
Yeah.
But when you look at what he has done over the season, he had almost 400 yards in this game, which catapulted him, Charlton, over 4,000 yards on the season.
Amazing.
He's 3 games away from getting to that 5,000-yard plateau for the second time in a 3-year career, which I think he will reach that plateau. And also Kansas City has the best record in the NFL.
Yeah.
But when you sit there and you compare Rodgers and Mahomes, you have to decide which one has the best State Farm commercial.
Yeah, they both have a spit money with the State Farm commercials, all fair in Love and War. And speaking of Rodgers, Big C, out of the Pac-12, he took the lead there too. He had 39 touchdown passes, 4 interceptions, so he's leading touchdown Patrick Mahomes in both of those categories. I guess that makes his name officially Touchdown Aaron Rodgers, if that makes sense to you. But when you think about it, they're pushing each other for that award. They also appeared in a TV commercial with the steak, and Mahomes put a lot of ketchup on the steak. You eat steak with ketchup, Big C?
No, I like my steaks medium rare, cooked real quick, Charlton.
Yeah.
And maybe a little steak sauce on the side.
Yeah, sometimes just off the hoof is good enough for a lot of people. So that award could end up being a dueling milestone and often impress MVP voters, Big C. Rodgers had a shot at 50 touchdown passes. You talk about touchdown Dan Marino, 50 touchdown passes. Mahomes should breeze past 5,000 yards. Maybe a 15-1 record for the Chiefs would swing the votes to the number 1 seed for the Packers would be Rodgers' best case. Big C, your thoughts?
This MVP vote this year will be splitting hairs.
Yeah.
Well, when you look at how the race started out, Russell Wilson, everyone said would be the clear-cut front runner for that, Charlton. He faltered at one point in the season. Josh Allen even got into the conversation. But Patrick Mahomes has been steady all year as well as Aaron Rodgers has.
Yeah.
And when you talk about these 2 great quarterbacks having an opportunity to accomplish 2 spectacular feats in the NFL, Patrick Mahomes, 5,000 yards on the season and potentially with only 1 loss on the season, and for the first time in Aaron Rodgers' career, reaching that 50-touchdown plateau, which has only been done, I believe, by 4 quarterbacks thus far in NFL history.
Yep.
An amazing feat to be able to get to. But both of these quarterbacks would be deserving. It's going to be a very tight race when it comes down to the voters.
Isn't that something? You have the Big 12 with touchdown Patrick Mahomes out of Texas Tech, and the Pac-12 with touchdown Aaron Rodgers out of the University of California, Berkeley, and both are having a hard time getting teams into the college football finals. It's all fair, love, and war. I want to get into Big C's NFL Power Rankings Week 15, going down from 10 to 1. Everybody has their opinion, but we're going to count the votes. Like POTUS said, count the votes, and then he said don't count the votes. But Big C Sports, we will always count the vote. Number 10, Big C's NFL Power Rankings Week 15. The Baltimore Ravens, 8-5. They're led by Superman Jackson. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you know, when you think about the performance that the Ravens put on last night, even with Lamar Jackson having diarrhea and coming back into the game, I guess that's what ran him all over the field, literally.
Yeah, no pun intended.
They beat up on the Browns for the second time this season. So if it comes down between a tiebreaker between these two teams in that division, the Ravens will win out on the tiebreaker. They have beaten the Browns twice in head-to-head competition, even though they trailed them by one game in the division, Charles. They have the easier road in the final 3 games.
Yeah, they have an easier road, it seems, on paper. Big C, number 9 at Big C's NFL Power Rankings, Week 15. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they fall to 11-2, and they're 0-2 in their last 2 games. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I mean, they're 0-2 in their last 2 games. I mean, they could easily have lost their last 4 games. You have to look at the Pittsburgh Steelers offense right now, which is non-existent.
Yeah.
And that defense has really been beat up. They lost their top 2 linebackers, Charlton, which really tells, you know, when you're trying to stop the opposing run and pass of their opponent. And when you look at the receiving core right now of the Pittsburgh Steelers, I know it's cold out there in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
They couldn't catch a cold sitting on a block of ice butt naked in the freezer right now.
Yeah, they need some stickum. Maybe they need to get that block of ice and sit on it, if that makes sense to you. Yeah, ice helps a lot of things. Number 8 in Big C's NFL Top 10 Power Rankings. The Seattle Seahawks, they are 9-4 with touchdown Russell Wilson. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, this is a team that's going to fight the Los Angeles Rams to the end of the season, Charlton, to hopefully get into the playoffs. If they stay steady and win out, you know, they'll make the playoffs. They're trying to overtake the Rams for first place in that NFC Western Division. Russell Wilson, once again, had a fine performance with 4 touchdown passes. The defense reared its head and shut out its opponent. They have to be more consistent on defense, and Chris Carson has to do a better job every week running the football.
Gotta run that ball better, Big C. Number 7 in Big C's NFL Power Rankings. Number 7, Indianapolis Colts. They have one of the oldest quarterbacks in football. Wasn't good enough to play for the Chargers, but he's good enough to help Indianapolis. Them good boys are 9-4, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, it seemed like over the weekend, Phillip Rivers didn't forget the conference that he spent 17 years of his career in, Charlton, the AFC West. And when he saw that silver and black, he said, this is going to be easy. And it was for the Indianapolis Colts. Their defense shut down the Las Vegas Raiders offense. And that running game was real strong for the Indianapolis Colts, Charlton. When you think about Jonathan Taylor, their rookie running back out of Wisconsin, going for 150 yards on the ground. Phillip Rivers looked flawless in this game, and they forced Derek Carr into a couple of errors. Yeah,
he's not Johnny Unitas. He's not even Peyton Manning, Big C, but he's doing his thing with Indianapolis at 9-4 in the season. Number 6 in Big C's NFL Power Rankings. The 9-4 Tennessee. Who has that freight train on the football field? Titans, Big C, your thoughts?
I mean, Derrick Henry is leading the NFL in rushing for the 4th time. He went over 200 yards in a game, Charlton, in his career. So you think about the powerhouse of him. But you really have to look at Ryan Tannehill, the quarterback of the of the Tennessee Titans. Ryan Tannehill, since taking over that role with the Tennessee Titans, he's only lost 7 games as a starter with the Tennessee Titans. And he has this offense in sync. And his defense has made some big timely plays over the weekend, but they were only playing the Jacksonville Jaguars.
When you can outrush as a running back, run for more yards than your quarterback throws for, you know you're doing things right. Number 5 in Big C's NFL Power Rankings, the 9-4 Los Angeles Touchdown Rams. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Jared Goff is the key to this offense, Charlton, and you think about Akers having over 150 yards rushing in that last game that they played. Really helped solidify their offense. You got Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp on the outside as their receivers, and Jared Goff really trusts that tandem. The past couple of games, they both had over 200 yards combined receiving in those games. And that Rams defensive front, you know, what else can you say about it? Led by Aaron Donald, probably the best defensive front in the NFL, and that secondary is solid.
He's no Deacon Jones, Big C, but he's doing his thing. Number 4, Big C's NFL Power Rankings, the New Orleans. Who that say they're going to beat them Saints? They're 10-3, Big C, your thoughts?
You know, they had a heartbreaking loss to the Philadelphia Eagles. They inserted a new quarterback Jalen Hurts, and they didn't have an answer for him defensively. The Saints still have probably the first or second best defense in the NFC conference, Charlton, and they're planning on getting Drew Brees back this week. And once Drew Brees comes back into that lineup, if those ribs are healthy, that passing game will light it up again.
Yeah, they'll light it up again. The only team that might stop the Eagles from winning out might be the Jeffrey Lurie and the ownership group if they can't see what they saw. It's all fair and love and war. Number 3, Big C's NFL football power rankings. The Buffalo Bills, they are 10-3, and it looks like they have an easy look at Niagara Falls. Big C, your thoughts?
And the Buffalo Bills are for real. Well, when you think about this team being led by Josh Allen, this guy has really matured as a quarterback in the NFL. Everyone looks at him as just a strong-arm rookie when he came into the league a couple years ago, Charlton. But the maturation process has proved itself in Buffalo. They've surrounded him with 3 outstanding receivers in Brown, Beasley, and Diggs, and they are delivering, Charlton, and got Singletary in the backfield running the ball. The Buffalo defense is young and aggressive.
Yeah.
They get after people, Charlton, and they play some outstanding football. If not for that Hail Murray 3 weeks ago down in the desert in Arizona, the Bills would have won 7 consecutive games.
Man, they're a good-looking football team, and they're young. They're doing their things. Coming up on the top 2, Big C's NFL Power Rankings. The winner will get the Big C Burger. It is a tasty burger. It comes with exotic meats. And maybe, just maybe, the next commercial, instead of having a steak, they'll have that Big C Burger. It's all fair and love and war. Number 2, Big C's NFL Power Rankings. The Green Bay Packers, them good old boys, are 10-3, and they have a quarterback that throws with a laser beam. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Aaron Jones, Devontae Adams, Aaron Rodgers. And what more can you say about that, Green Bay Packers offense? Scanlon is an outstanding receiver. The tight end is getting the job done. The offensive line is not getting enough credit for giving Aaron Rodgers the season that he is having. They have given him more than adequate time in protecting him, allowing him to use that belly of wide receivers that he has in that offense. And when you think about the defense of the Green Bay Packers, they're getting better as the season goes on. They become healthy, Charlton. They're stopping the run. They're putting an excellent amount of pressure on opposing passes. You got to be excited about Green Bay's opportunity to make it to the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, especially if it's like 20 degrees up in Green Bay. Not too many people want to go up there and play in 20 degrees weather. Number 1 at Big C's NFL football power rankings, the defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs with touchdown Patrick Mahomes. They are 12-1. Big C, your thoughts?
And when you look at the Chiefs and you look at their record overall, the best record in the NFL, I see a football team that's bored right now. They seem not to have the spark that they had at this point last season. Yes, they're winning the game, but they lost the last 6 games against the spread, and I think that's what's important to a lot of people in Las Vegas. But the Kansas City Chiefs seems to be like playing cat and mouse with the rest of the NFL. When you seem like you're going to get away, all of a sudden they stick out a paw and snap you back in there. But, when you look at what this offense can do, Charlton, people will say, well, the defense gave up 17 points to Miami in the fourth quarter. Yeah, but they gave up 17 points and still won. That lets you know how comfortable the lead was from the offense.
Yeah, they have a lot of good things going on. That's Big C's NFL Top 10 Power Rankings. It's all fair and love and war. That's our opinion, and we're sticking to it. No matter what Senator Mitch McConnell says, we're sticking with that. And hopefully that good boy would do like a lot of Donald Trump's friends. Just leave, retire, get out. You're starving people, and now you want to act nice to a man. You try to usurp the election of the United States of America. Do the honorable thing and resign. Just resign. Quit starving people. Big C, NFL football, Carson Wentz was once a promising franchise quarterback. He's now the NFL's top trade storyline. In my opinion, get him some CTE help first. But these options have given the Eagles a lot more opportunities to get their wings under them. If Hurts can cement himself as a long-term starter, I think it helps the Eagles. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, one of the things with the Eagles right now is that contract with Carson Wentz.
Yeah.
I think the Eagles have to let the scenario play out with Jalen Hurts. You spent a second-round draft pick on him. He was productive in the first game that you inserted him into the lineup, even though NFL teams didn't have any tape on him. But he's in a very weak division, the NFC East. Now, I think that he's actually the best opportunity for them to win the division. When I look at his playing style, it emulates Russell Wilson in Seattle so much that I think that he can be effective. But there's going to be a big problem with the team moving forward. How do you handle the Wentz situation?
Well, think about it. You got to make choices, Big C. Cut Wentz immediately. just like the United States cut Donald Trump immediately, cut Wentz after this season, absorb his full $60 million cap, is really $52.9 million or $59.2 million in change for 2021. With the Eagles already expected to be significantly over the 2021 salary cap, the owner's a multi-billionaire. This is essentially impossible and would require getting a significant portion of the roster just to get Wentz's contract off the books. The problem is, if you cut him and designate him as a post-June 1 release, which would take a $59.2 million cap charge and spread that debt money over 2 seasons, roughly $34.7 million counting against the cap in 2021, the other $24.5 million being applied in 2022, it still would not be ideal, but spreading out the pain, Big C, would help present the need to tear down the team, if that makes sense. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, how far do you want to take the team down, Charlton, for one player? I mean, you got to have a backup quarterback. When you have that much dead cap money, it prohibits you from going out signing frontline players.
Yeah.
You don't have the draft capital to bring in a lot of young players, Charlton, to say, okay, we're going to develop these players over the next 2 years and they're all going to be in place. You got to think about how much you would decimate your organization because you overpaid for an individual. This has become the cost of doing business in the NFL.
Yeah.
You look at the San Francisco 49ers for the past couple of years, as everyone's talked about the decline of Jimmy Garoppolo. What do you do with Jimmy Garoppolo? Same thing with him. You get rid of a quarterback, you got dead cap money that you can't even go out and sign frontline players. So do you make your team worse because you're going to have this high-priced individual on the sideline holding a clipboard, or do you part ways with him and you still can't rebuild your team for the next 3 to 5 years, and he may go to another organization and they benefit from it?
Yeah, maybe is a big word, Big C. Even if the marginal salary offset any deal did with Wentz would sign another franchise, it's a bigger debt money hit. But you're talking about billionaires that might have to dig in their pocket for a few $1 million. It's all fair and love and war. I think trade him, let another team eat up the $38 million debt money cap, and that's for 2021. And that's where the financial damage would put the end for Philadelphia Eagles. Wentz acquiring them, picking up the responsibility, roughly $25.4 million, guaranteed salary money. But that kind of money for a multi-billionaire is like arguing over who's going to pay for the Big C burger, is the tasty burger, and it comes with exotic meats. But you don't need $1 billion to worry about it, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, it's not about how much the owner of an organization is worth, Charlton. When you can only put so much money into the salary of the organization, that's why they call it cap. You can only spend so much money on players. That's what teams are allotted throughout the year. There are some injury exemptions when you lose players to injury that you're allowed to bring players in, but that's the only exemption. But when the NFL cap on a team is $90 million for that season, that's all you're allotted, $90 million. You may have $10 million spare based on injury exemptions, Charlton. When players get injured, you have to bring players off the practice roster. But that $90 million cap is set. I don't care if that owner has $10 billion in his pocket. He can only put $90 million into the salary of the players.
Yeah, and that's why they have a lot of paper bags in the city of brotherly love. That makes sense to you. Speaking of paper bags, we're going to take what's called the Big C pause. When we come back, we want to get Big C's thoughts on what the NFL playoff picture looks like in Week 15. We'll take the Big C pause, and like Arnold Schwarzenegger says, we'll be back. All right, we are back from the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio Podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. There's so many apps, and I really do appreciate the way things are going with Big C Sports. Also want to say thank you to Comcast Spotlight for presenting Big C Sports to the universe. Just like God said, let there be light. Open your cell phone, say play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear welcome to the show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic, and he'll do his thing from 3,000 miles away, and I really do appreciate the way things are going with Big C Sports. So I want to run down some thoughts on NFL football, playoff structure, Week 15. Things can change, as they always seem to change, it seems, coming up on football, Big C. If you think about it, in the NFC, right now at least, the Green Bay Packers, they're 10-3, and they've already, it looks like they've clinched the division, and that's easy to do when you have the Vikings, the Bears, and the Lions. And then you have New Orleans Saints, they're 10-3, and they have clinched a playoff spot, and they look pretty good, but last week they were had by the Eagles. And then number 3, you have the LA Rams 9-4, followed by the Washington football team at 6-7. Number 5 in the NFC, the Seattle Seahawks, they're 9-4. They're running with the Rams, Big C. Number 6, Tampa Bay Buccaneers 8-5, followed by Arizona Cardinals at 7-6. Minnesota Vikings 6-7, still alive, and the Chicago Bears are 6-7, but they don't even want to get on an airplane to go to the playoffs. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you talked about those first 4 teams, Green Bay, New Orleans, Los Angeles, and Washington, those teams are leading their division. And if they stay past the way that they are, they're in the playoffs. You talk about the wild card teams. You talk about Seattle and Tampa Bay for the first 2 positions of wild cards in the NFC. Seattle seems to have an easy road. Tampa got on track last week with another win against Minnesota. So those teams right now seem to be pretty solid if they can work their way through the rest of the season.
Yeah, and it's even more. I think that if you look at the AFC and the NFC, the top 4 are pretty solid. We're going to run down the AFC, but you never know what's going to happen down the stretch. Whoever thought the Steelers would have lost 2 in a row after running off 11, but I think the NFL screwed them over by having them mix up their schedule and playing without enough days rest. In the AFC, Big C, number 1, defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. They're 12-1, and they've already clinched the division, Big C. Number 2, you got to pause when you say it right now because they're not running the ball well. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they are 11-2, and they've clinched the playoff berth, but I don't feel that confident about them right now. Number 3, the Buffalo Bills are 10-3, followed by the Tennessee Titans. They're 9-4 with that freight train in the backfield. Number 5, Cleveland Browns, 9-4. Number 6, Indianapolis Colts. They are 9-4. Number 7, the Miami Dolphins might swim their way back into the playoffs. 8-5, the Baltimore Ravens with Superman Jackson are 8-5. And the Las Vegas Raiders, they're 7-6, but they're coached by John Gruden. They're probably going to be home watching the playoffs. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, when you think about teams in the AFC, Kansas City and Buffalo, to me, are the top 2 teams in the AFC, even though Pittsburgh has clinched a playoff spot. Then you fall down to the Tennessee Titans. I mean, they're neck and neck in their division with the coach, Charlton. But the Tennessee Titans, they get to playing running football this time of the year.
Yeah.
Derrick Henry becomes hard to stop. You go all the way down to the Baltimore Ravens in the 8th spot, behind the Cleveland Browns. But the Baltimore Ravens have the easiest path to the playoffs. People got to look at the Cleveland Browns have to play the Pittsburgh Steelers in that final game of the season. And so that game is going to be all about playoff positioning.
Yeah.
And the Steelers are hoping that their receivers learn to catch the ball by then.
Yeah, they just need some Stickum. I think they out Stickum, but if there's anything they need to change, Big C, bring Stickum back. I mean, the game's is a dirty game anyway. If you bring the Stickum back, you'll have more quarterbacks will be happy because their pass percentage might just go up, and it makes a lot more receivers happy when they don't drop almost every pass that's thrown to them. Just a couple of guys. I want to get into some NFL. We did the NFL, but I want to get into some college football, top 25 heading into week 16. But I want to just pause on something because we talk a lot about NFL teams and what they need to do. Is there anyone that really believes the Jets want to win a game? Not really. If you look at the 2021 NFL mock draft, Trevor Lawrence, obviously for a lot of people, quarterback out of Clemson, top pick. Number 2, Justin Fields, quarterback, Ohio State. Number 3, Penny Swell, offensive tackle out of Oregon. Number 4, Zach Wilson out of BYU. And then number 5, you have Kwity Paye. He's an edge rusher from Michigan. Give me your feeling on those top 5 players, Big C, your thoughts.
Well, Charlton, when you're sitting there and you're talking about 3 quarterbacks potentially going in the top 5, Zach Wilson is the most interesting of those 3. The young quarterback out of BYU who's leading the nation, in passing percentage and touchdown to interception ratio. And he's a one-year starter who stepped onto the scene and blew everybody away. Sewell is really needed by the Bengals. If Joe Burrow is expected to have a long career, Cincinnati has to surround him with some quality offensive line.
Yeah.
And Sewell seems to be the best offensive lineman in college football out of Oregon.
Yeah, it's amazing, and I hope these guys all get the chance to make their dreams come true. I want to go through a 5 more players just to get your feeling on it. You have number 6, Micah Parsons, linebacker, Penn State. They're having a tough year, but they're starting to get their wings under them again. And then you have Jamar Chase, Big C. He's a wide receiver out of LSU. They just knocked off Florida. Then there's a Jaden Waddle. He's a wide receiver at Alabama. He's very solid. Caleb Farley, cornerback, Virginia Tech. And Devonta Smith a wide receiver also out of Alabama. What do you think about those guys, Big C?
Well, Charlton, if Jamar Chase ends up going to the Falcons at number 7, that means Julio Jones will be looking at a new home with that huge contract that he has. Jalen Waddle would be reunited with Tua down in Miami. They played together for a couple of years there at Alabama. And then when you look at Devontae Smith, the wide receiver out of Alabama, who I think is the best player in college football and actually should be number one on everyone's Heisman board, going to the New York Giants, he would be that big play receiver that Daniel Jones needs to help keep his career on track.
Yeah, there's a lot of good players out there. I know they're all getting ready to see if they can go to that next level, and hopefully with the grace of God and working out hard, they will get to that next level. I want to run down some thoughts on Big C's college football top 25, and everybody has their opinion, but just some thoughts, and everybody has a thought, Big C. Here's the latest top 25 heading into Week 16 of the college football season, and it's put together by anonymous people. People should be able to vote and say who they voted for, and you realize some of that collusion that's down there in the South and the SEC and the ACC has to get gone. We just got to do away with it, like Senator Mitch McConnell needs to resign also. In the Associated Press poll right now, number 1, Alabama. Alabama may have to play someone from long, long ago in a galaxy far, far away to lose a game. That's just my opinion. Number 2, Notre Dame, followed by number 3, Ohio State. Number 4, Clemson. Number 5, Texas A&M. Number 6, Cincinnati. Number 7, Indiana. And we're talking football, not basketball. Number 8, Iowa State may win the Big 12 for the first time in their history. Number 9, Coastal Carolina. Number 10, Georgia Bulldogs. Number 11, Florida just lost the game to LSU. How are they ranked higher than LSU? LSU just beat them. Number 12, Oklahoma. Number 13, USC, that's undefeated. Number 14, BYU. And number 15, Northwestern. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you look at the voting poll of when it came down to it, Alabama had 62 first place votes, unanimous. I mean, when we look at the rankings of college football, they stayed pretty pat all year long. The conference playoff championship games will be held this weekend, and that will iron out all the naysayers on who should go where. And it will be left up to the players on the field to make the final outcome for the college football playoff.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people say. But the only problem is when you rank somebody, there are a lot of people that get ranked and they're not where they started when the season's over. They should have a way to play it on the field, just like voting for a presidential election. That's just my opinion. College football's highest grade for quarterbacks so far. It's just an opinion, and everybody has one. Number 1, Zach Wilson, BYU, 94.8. Big C. Number 2, Mark Jones. Actually, is Mac Jones out of Alabama, 94.5 rating. I think he's a better quarterback than Wilson. Number 3, Justin Fields, Ohio State, 93.1 rating. Number 4, Kyle Trask, Florida, 92.8. They couldn't even beat a 500 LSU team. Number 5, Sam Howell, University of North Carolina, with a 92.3. And number 6, everybody's number 1 projection is Trevor Lawrence out of Clemson. He only has a 91.8 rating. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Trevor Lawrence missed the 2 games, Charlton, with COVID-19. He was a little rusty in the game that he came back. But Clemson has their biggest game of the year coming up this weekend against Notre Dame for the ACC championship.
Yeah, that's going to be a big game. And it's amazing because the Irish are going to run right back to the independents once they realize they don't have to split the money when they stay as an independent, but they got to split money when they're down in the ACC. College football, most 10-plus yard runs in the Pac-12. You have Demetric Felton out of UCLA with 22 of them. Number 2, Jarek Broussard, was very solid out of Colorado, 20. And then number 3, Jamar Jefferson, Oregon State, 17. And then Gary Brightwell out of Arizona, he has 14 of them. Big C, your thoughts?
Brightwell has 14, and unfortunately his coach Kevin Summer just lost his job over the weekend, Charlton. But when you look at those top runners in the Pac-12, none of them come from an undefeated team.
Yeah, none of them come from an undefeated team. And if you think about it, Big C, there's only one undefeated team in the SEC, and they have more schools in the Pac-12. That's just Alabama. But when you think about it also, college football, the top-ranked Pac-12 offense in per game, EPA per game, Arizona State, they put up 70 against their cross-state rival Arizona. Number 2, you have Oregon, followed by Stanford, and then also number 4, the Washington Huskies. Big C, your thoughts?
And Oregon is going to be playing Friday in the Pac-12 championship game, Charlton, against USC, and we're going to see if that offense is as potent as it shows on their stat sheet.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying cancel that game, just cancel because COVID has kicked so many people's butt. And unfortunately, because a lot of those players are African American and they're doing it for free, people are saying just iceberg straight ahead, just keep playing this all-fair in Leavenworth war. I want to look at college football passing yards games allowed by the top 4 playoff teams up to date, Big C. You have Alabama 223, you have Notre Dame 211, followed by Clemson 186, and Ohio State at 270 when it comes to pass yards a game allowed by the top 4 teams. Big C, your thoughts?
And Ohio State is a shocker in that group, Charlton. When you think about all the great athletes that they have up there in Columbus, Ohio, giving up 270 yards a game, this is probably one of the weakest defenses that Ohio State has had in the last 5 years.
Yeah, they almost lost to Indiana, which is a basketball power, but almost is not good enough, if that makes sense to you. So I want to run down some thoughts, and again, everybody has their own opinion, but here's just an opinion. It's not likely, but it is possible that this bowl season, it may feature 5 games between undefeated teams, perhaps for the first time ever. You have in the semifinals, the way it stands now, it may change by a few more games, Big C. Number 1, Alabama versus number 4, Cincinnati. That might make some people throw up, but they're the winningest team in Ohio if you're going to count the number of wins, Big C, for college football. Number 2, in the semis, you have Notre Dame, and of course they have their game coming up with Clemson, versus number 3, Ohio State, which only has about enough games to count them on one hand. Big C, your thoughts?
You know, and that would be an interesting scenario, Charlton. As you look at the way that the college football rankings are right now.
Yeah.
And if everything goes status quo and those top teams win, Charlton, out in their conference playoffs this week, it would be very tough to keep Cincinnati out of the college football playoffs. They would be a 10-0 team, Charlton.
Yeah.
And they would leapfrog Clemson and Texas A&M, who both would have Clemson would have 2 losses, Texas A&M would have a loss. Cincinnati would be undefeated and be facing Alabama in the college football playoffs.
Yeah.
And you know, if that scenario was to occur, then maybe what you've been crying about, an expansion of the college football playoffs, would occur.
Yeah, I think it's a cry that the universe, they know is real. Just like count all the votes. Donald Trump was saying they didn't count all the votes. Then he said, "Oh, I'm behind. Well, stop counting. No, count the votes when I'm behind. Don't count the votes when I'm ahead." And I think if they were to throw the SEC and the ACC out, just say you can't get in because of the collusion that goes on, and make it more fair for the conferences that don't cheat, Big C, you would have more fairness if every conference champion of the Power 5 could get in, and then you can have 3 at large. Only Donald Trump and Mitch McConnell would argue against that. That's all fair in love and war. A New Year's 6 game would be Coastal Carolina against USC, and then the Arizona Bowl, maybe Buffalo versus San Jose State. But why would you make Buffalo fly 3,000 miles just to play a game with no fans, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you want to get them out of the cold. By that time, up in Buffalo, they probably have
they want to go
on the ground, Charlton. But Buffalo probably has the most exciting running back in the country. This kid Bright, you know, he had over 1,000 yards in 5 games rushing. I think seeing him on the national stage would be exciting for college football fans.
Yeah.
And then if you look at USC and Coastal Carolina, Charlton, you have 2 undefeated teams from the East and West Coast getting together in a New Year's 6 game, Charlton. We'll finally find out if the Chanticleers are for real if that happens.
I would rather see USC and Alabama. We'll touch on that. Why? Because it almost makes sense, especially where the college, the NFL scouts go. They're not looking at Coastal Carolina. They really have USC and Alabama over the years. I want to get some thoughts just for the state that says if you're Santa Claus, ho, 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 they will boo you if you're Philadelphia. But over there in Happy Valley, they're a little bit happier, Big C. Would you believe that Penn State is tied for the national lead in the NCAA for championships won since 2007? The Nittany Lions have 19 NCAA titles during their past 10 years, Big C. Your thoughts?
I mean, and that's an outstanding accomplishment. I mean, so often, Charlton, people think when you're looking at national championships and collegiate level, people only count in college football and college basketball.
Yeah.
They happen to forget about the plethora of sports that are played on the collegiate level. And when you think about the Big Ten, people always think about Ohio State when it comes to football, Michigan State when it comes to basketball. But here is Penn State being the most dominant team, most dominant athletic department in the entire Big Ten Conference, having won 19 championships over the last decade.
Yeah, and they counted all the votes. There's a lot about counting every vote and every championship, and you're the state of Pennsylvania. Think about this. Penn State's tied for the National League in championships won since 2007. We talked about the 19 NCAA titles in the 10 years. But think about that, Big C. They're tied, I think if my math is right, they're tied with the lead with Oregon, Southern California, and Stanford. You know, the conference that can't get consideration by those 13 closet voters for the bowl games. The next closest is Florida with 16 titles during that same 10-year span, Big C. Your thoughts?
You know, and what's amazing about Charleston, all 5 of those universities, is that nobody has won a football or basketball title during that span. It has been all those sports that people don't really pay much attention to, non-revenue sports. I know Florida's won the national championship in baseball as well as volleyball, and Penn State has won them in women's volleyball 5 times, as well as Stanford, you know, has won women's volleyball. Oregon has won the women's basketball title. So these have been outstanding events. You think about golf, tennis, swimming. All of these schools have been very proficient in that, as well as gymnastics. Yeah,
and I mean, that's important. I love, and you know, Big C, that's also what you just said. When you look at what's happened with college football and COVID-19, and thank God there's a vaccine. Some people say, I would never take a vaccine, but people take a flu vaccine so get on side. They take a measles vaccine or whatever cure, polio, Dr. Salk with the polio vaccine. Vaccines are great for helping people live longer. All over this world, people get vaccinated, and just, you know, be patient, talk to your doctor, make sure you understand, but we can see what COVID has done to knock out a lot of those championship programs that we talked about on all levels. But I got a bone to pick with the 13 members, these quiet guys. They're like Senator Mitch McConnell. He knows he's a crooked person. He knows he's a horrible human being. He knows he's willing to starve even the white people that voted for that garbage. Can you believe that? Because they don't want to get people help. Because they're crooked. And Mitch McConnell's crooked. Also crooked is his bowl selection. I've been telling you I'm stomping for fairness. If you get all 5 power conferences in, who cares what team is undefeated or has one loss on the season? If you're a champion, you get in. The case I'll make for the Pac-12. There's not enough time in the show, Big C, to talk about it. But think about touchdown Aaron Rodgers. You talk about him all the time. He learned to shred defenses in the Pac-12, Big C, the Pac-10 at the time. That same bowl committee members, they lack the knowledge of the history of how dominant the Pac-12 is over the last 100 years, Big C. They produced Jackie Robinson, who broke the baseball color barrier. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the leading scorer in the history of NBA basketball. Jim Plunkett, Heisman Trophy winner out of Stanford, can't get into the Hall of Fame with 2 Super Bowls. O.J. Simpson, Reggie Jackson he did this thing down at Arizona State. O.J. went to USC. Marcus Allen, USC. Ronnie Lott came out of USC. Dan Fouts at Oregon. Ahmad Rashad was with Bobby Moore at the time out of Oregon. John Elway, John Touchdown Elway for Stanford Cardinals. Randy Johnson was out of the Pac-10, also a Big C, down at Arizona State. Barry Bonds went to Arizona State. Will Clark, San Jose State. Lynn Swann, USC. Warren Moon, University of Washington. They would not give that boy a chance to get drafted in the NFL because of the same garbage they're doing now to Pac-12 people. Mark McGuire, USC. Tiger Woods, Stanford. Reggie Bush, USC. Tony Gonzalez, Cal Berkeley. Junior Seau, USC. Keyshawn Johnson, USC. Anthony Munoz, USC. Bill Walton, UCLA. Mike Garrett, USC. Carson Palmer, USC. Lisa Leslie, Cheryl Miller, USC. Troy Aikman, UCLA. Gary Beeman, UCLA. Andrew Luck, Stafford. Russell Westbrook, UCLA. James Harden, Arizona State. Byron Scott did his thing at Arizona State. A.C. Graham, Oregon State. They had a guy called The Glove that also played at Oregon State. You know who he is, Big C. Jason Kidd, Cal Berkeley. John Wayne, USC. Willie Strope, USC. How many Hall of Fame athletes? Think about that. 529 NCAA titles. That's 238 more than the Big Ten, which is second in all of college sports, Big C. Think about it. The Pac-10, 12 women programs, 129 national championships total. Men's, 29 baseball championships. Golf, 16. National championships. UCLA has the longest college basketball win streak in the country, 88 games. 11 national basketball championships. Think about that, Big C. Football, USC has 11 national titles. 13 undefeated seasons. 39 conference titles. The real conference of champions is being excluded from participating in the college bowl games, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I think it goes back to that old analogy. If you win, you're in. It ends all of the debate. You don't have to sit there and talk about how good you are. you show everybody how good you are. Then you go out and you win all of your games. I mean, it's great to speak about the lineage of a conference. Only 3 of those players that you spoke about named are still active today. I mean, all universities have a great lineage and history of athletes that have played on all professional levels. But when you look at college football and how it's structured today, even when it comes down to the bowl playoff series, since its inception, it's about winning and you're in it. It's not about trying to get voted in. If your record speaks for itself, if you go out and you play the amount of games that are required to get in and you're undefeated, there's no debate about it. That's what it comes down to. But when the bowl selection comes down to 2020, in a year like no other year, it's hard to go and say, okay, this team is 11-1 and this team is 6-0, and they played 5 more games than that team that has not lost. How do we put the schedule together? They didn't have as many opportunities to lose, and if that team that is 11-1 gets selected into the bowl committee and they went 8-0 before they lost the game, how do you say the team that's 6-0 is better than them? Because the body of work is what people are evaluating. But it comes down to you win and you're in and you end the debate.
That's not true. They have 4 spots for 5 conferences. The math doesn't add up. That's what Mitch McConnell would say.
It never added up. I mean, when all the coaches, the athletic directors, and the school presidents agreed to this format, they knew that there would always be somebody on the outside looking in. And that's the reason, and they all agreed to that. They all agreed to the format that if you win, you're in. You're not going to get in when you don't have the strength of schedule. Well, when you look at yourself and you're undefeated on the season and you won 6 games and your opponents combined between them have only won 6 games together, you can't say that that's strength of schedule when all the voters look at it. This is an independent body that's voting on that. And you have to understand the president of the select committee is the athletic director at the University of Oregon. So you can't say that he's being unbiased.
Big C, you sound like Mitch McConnell. The guy who won is in? No. These good old boys, they're saying no. And we got over 126 white Republicans that said, no, the election doesn't count. Let's throw out 20 million votes. It's collusion. That's why let the conference champions in. And this
think about this. When Hillary Clinton beat Donald Trump 4 years ago for the presidency, she beat him by around 3 million votes.
Yeah.
That meant that she had more winning numbers than what he had. But he got in based on the Electoral College. This is similar to the same format as politics when you look at it. They look at the number of entities that you have that equality wins. That's what it comes down to. It's not a bias thing. You close your eyes, throw out the colors of the universities and the names of them, and you look at the numbers that they're going down through. They look at a spreadsheet with the numbers on it. They're not looking at the colors. They look at a spreadsheet with the numbers on it, just like with the stock market, and see which are the best performing.
Big C, let me ask you a question. Do you believe there's 5 power conferences, yes or no?
I think there's actually 6.
Okay, well, maybe you know some secret conferences that are out there. But
that's the AAC.
Okay.
That is.
Well, I would say any math teacher, let the conference champions play for the championship. That makes every argument moot. If you win, that's like the NFL saying the NFC East you can't get in because you have teams that won more games than other conferences. It's all fair and love and war. But in the sake of time, I want to pay homage to the Black Wall Street coming up in 2021 for our shows. But college football, almost, I would say the same, analogous, would be the Black Wall Street, the incredible deep influence of the HBCUs, the historically black college universities football, and had on the AFL and the NFL. You know, it only existed because these white guys, like Senator Mitch McConnell, they wouldn't let the black people participate in sports, so they had segregated schools, Big C. But when you remember the uniquely talented 1974 Jackson State football team, most football fans know Walter Payton attended Jackson State. In the early 1970s, he went on to become one of the greatest running backs in the history of the NFL universe. It's all fair and love and war, but those white boys down south, just like now, they would not let the black guys go to the white schools because of so many reasons. and some fans know it. And there's 3 other great players, Jackson State Tigers, who've busted into the Canton Hall of Fame, Big C. Lem Barney, Robert Brazile, Jackie Slater. And part of that story isn't always connected. The 1974 Jackson State football team program, I know you know this, Big C, it featured 3 starters, Walter Payton and Slater and Brazile, who were named all SWAC that season and later became members of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Payton in 93, Slater in 2001, and Brazile in 2018. And these white boys wouldn't let these black players integrate schools, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, when you think about Jackson State, which is in Mississippi, the same state that has the University of Mississippi and Mississippi State.
Yeah.
Jackson State in 74 had more players drafted than both of those universities combined.
Yeah.
Those are 2 SEC universities. Jackson State was the hollow grounds of the greatest athletes and football players
Ever.
in the state of Mississippi in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
Those universities would not integrate and allow those great athletes to show their talent. But you think about that class of those 3 guys, Walter Payton, Robert Brazile, Jackie Slater. That is the only class in college football, Charlton, that has 3 players in the NFL Hall of Fame.
Yeah, and it's amazing how black people have always faced segregation and discrimination. That's why Senator Mitch McConnell should resign. They should kick his butt out of office. There's people starving, and this white man is willing to sit back and let them die because he's evil. It's amazing. Walter Payton was selected the 4th overall pick by the Chicago Bears. Brazile followed 2 selections later, Big C, at number 6 with the then Houston Oilers in the 1975 NFL Draft. Slater joined them in the NFL a year later as a 3rd-round pick of the LA Rams. Now, this is more Southern knowledge, Big C, coming to you from Big C Sports. Nobody else is going to tell you this. Jackson State, which is located in Jackson, Mississippi, actually had 5 players drafted in 1975, more than Ole Miss, Mississippi State combined. The Tigers players drafted 75 included a pair of running backs, Peyton, Ricky Young, and who played 9 NFL seasons, led the NFL with 88 receptions in 1978. Also Jackson State tight end Rod Phillips. He was signed as an undrafted free agent by the LA Rams that year, converted to running back once in the NFL. Though Phillips was a converted running back in the league, is still quite remarkable, Big C, a nearly unfathomable feat that Jackson State sent 3 players who played in the postseason to the NFL league in the same year, Big C. Your thoughts?
You know, and all those players played on offense together at one university, one black university, historical black college. And that's, you know, what segregation actually destroyed, Charlton. When you sit up and you talk about these Power 5 conferences now, segregation actually destroyed the great athletes who had an opportunity to play at those historically black colleges and kept them great through the decades of the 40s and 50s and 60s. When we think about the NFL and the Hall of Fame in the NFL, almost a third of the NFL Hall of Fame, Charlton, came from this historically black colleges because they had an opportunity to play on the collegiate level and also assimilate into the NFL. Even though many of them had to change positions once they got to the NFL, it showed the greatness and fortitude of these tremendous black athletes.
Yeah, and I appreciate, and I would just say that Big C Sports is the only sports show in the universe that will talk about the history of the black athlete, the black Wall Street, what goes on in Congress and the nation's capital. Black people built this country. All life began on the African continent. But just like Senator Mitch McConnell, willing to starve people, they talk about white wealth and black wealth. And he doesn't mind starving white people. Most black people know how to get through hard times. A lot of white people don't. Not at the same level, Big C. But that sad person is willing to starve Americans, and then he has the balls to call the president-elect, Joe Biden, and congratulate him. After starving millions of Americans, that person has no room in politics, no room to be the overseer of this great country. Final story, basketball, Giannis Antetokounmpo. He signs a mega supermax deal, a 5-year, $228 million deal. I guess it did not bother him that during the election, the owner of the Milwaukee Bucks closed the arena so black Americans couldn't vote. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you got to understand, Giannis cannot vote in America anyway. He's not an American citizen. He has a work status here in America, but money is money to him.
Yeah, money is money to him, but it's a shame how many people try to oppose and oppress black Americans who are only asking for liberty and justice for all. It's all fair and love and war. Big C, That's why we have Big C Sports. Back in the day, there's a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man, and he would always ask Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young man, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in this boy's universe?
Well, Charlton, we're still going to get this continuation of cancellation of sporting events. But I'm happy that Americans now have access to the COVID-19 vaccine, and hopefully they'll expedite more and more Americans getting vaccinated for this COVID-19 disease, Charlton. But once again, I want to thank our frontline healthcare workers. I'm glad that they were front in line to get the COVID-19 vaccine for the sacrifices and diligent service that they've done for all Americans, Charlton. And once again, let's keep America safe.
Yeah, let's keep America safe, and God bless our health workers. Senator Mitch McConnell's willing to starve Americans, but our health workers are trying to keep everybody alive. You can stay alive, too, every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide when you follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. As we always tell you, that's never, ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. If you know any man, woman, or child going through that garbage, please pick up your phone and ask for help, because no man, woman, or child should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And Senator Mitch McConnell is willing to starve millions of Americans. As we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.